and friends and students was who didn't have Facebook. We were only streaming to our Facebook group. Now we're streaming everywhere.
I wish you guys could see our setup. We have one camera, 2 phones, 3 computers going, and we're live streaming to how many platforms? I think
Jace is here, Hawaiian Lion.
What's up, Jace, Hawaiian Lion?
Yeah. Hey, how's it going?
Oh my gosh, we're getting alerts like everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
Just, like so.
This
ADD.
is great. But
Okay,
say hello. Let us know who's watching. We're excited. We're talking alien country. We're talking movie making.
We're talking tech. We're talking all the things. We're talking.
It's pretty apropos that we're actually talking about tech in the fact that we literally have 2 different phones streaming to Instagram and a computer streaming across 3 different platforms via restream.io. So yeah, I'm gonna hop on Facebook here, and while you're talking and welcoming everyone, I'm gonna make sure everything's working.
So a little bit of news and update from our lives. We just got back from Florida 2 days ago on a really exciting trip. We actually went to Disney World. We haven't been there. I haven't been there since I was like 10 or 12 or something, and I think same for Boston. I think he was like 9th grade or something like that. It wasn't completely open. We ended up going to Epcot Center and Animal Kingdom. They were very strict about COVID protection with your masks. You could not enter without the right type of mask on, and having you literally got stopped on the street if your mask was below your nose. For 1 second, I took my mask off to take a picture. I totally got called out. So that was fun.
That was the very beginning, right?
That was before we really understood how. I mean, we take it seriously, but I didn't think because we were outside taking a picture would be that big a deal.
Right.
And another fun little update that we had is we actually got to. It's not like our trip was sponsored, but we got to make a sponsored video while we were in Disney World, because there's an app out there which we will be posting about later called Polycam, where we were able, Boston mainly was able to do some 3D scans of some super cool assets, including, art, like little exhibits from Disneyland, from Epcot, from Animal Kingdom. We actually went to St. Augustine, which is the oldest town in America, well, in the United States itself. It's like an old pirate town.
Technically, the way they phrase it is just kind of weird. Is they call it the oldest continuously settled town in North America, meaning it was settled by the Spanish in the 1500s.
Yeah, it's super cool. It was raining and cold while we were there, which was kind of a bummer. But Boston was able to get this amazing scan of a lighthouse that just blew my mind. And this is what we're talking about today, you guys. We're going to talk about embracing new tech and how it's helped shape our and continue and further our careers as filmmakers. We feel like we've been able to incorporate and embrace new tech on not just our YouTube videos that we've been making and our vlogs and our educational content and tutorials, but also Alien Country. We just have a lot of really cool ideas. And so that's one of the reasons why we got to # have a sponsored trip back east. So, just so everybody knows, we did go get COVID tested today. We've been pretty much quarantined so that we can find out the results, so that we know, because we did go travel. So we want to make sure that we're safe and all that good stuff. But
to jump in on that, Renny was saying we use this really cool app. So we were sponsored by Polycam. It's a free app. We'll actually include a link with it so we can get credit for you guys downloading it. But we have a video coming out about Polycam. Basically, this is one of the things that I want to talk about as indie filmmakers. How can you make the coolest art? How can you make the coolest films, but not break the bank? We've been talking about this on our live streams on our Facebook channel. And again, if you're joining us on Instagram or on YouTube, or even on Twitch, what we do on Facebook, we have a Facebook group called Indie Film School. I think it's facebook.com/group/indie school, if you can find it. But we'll include links to that. But basically, this is not pre-recorded. This is live. And
I apologize. Your
Reaper,
handles
just so you know,
are insanely tiny. I can't see them, so it's really hard to see who's saying hi. But hello.
hey, Reaper. This is not pre-recorded. We are saying hello to you. So welcome to the live stream. But yes, so and it's really good to see you, and I'm really glad you're here. So thanks for saying hello. But yeah, we basically why are these all getting retracted? Interesting. And not Lars. Hello. Okay, well, it's making it through on the other one, so that's fine. Hey, yeah, it's good to see you. I know it's been a long time for a lot of our YouTube audience, but what we've been doing is on this Indie Film School group is we've been basically doing live streams, and it was basically because we were talking about filmmaking, and it was kind of limited in who we were reaching. It was people who were basically in part of our film school. But we wanted to start doing these lives across all platforms so we could really start to reach, because not everyone's on Facebook, really. In fact, mostly just old people now.
And we totally fall into the category.
I mean, whatever. I was like original gangster. I joined Facebook when there were 16 colleges.
You're the OG
yeah,
of the Facebook users.
There were only 16 colleges on Facebook, and my college was one of them. And so, yeah, I joined Facebook pretty early on. But bottom line is we want to talk about these principles. And on our Facebook group, we've been talking about how to save money as an indie filmmaker. How do you actually make movies that look like they cost millions of dollars?
How do you stretch your budget? How do you make things look like hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars?
Hey, Charla. Hey, how's it going? Arch, I can barely read these.
I know.
Yep.
Get up close and personal, babe. Up
Charla,
close and personal.
Arch lady, yeah. Anyway, hey, everybody. How's it going? Good to see you. So.
But I want to talk a little bit about our history with tech. And go back maybe 5 years, which bear with us for a minute, because a lot of people might not know that we did a stint in Silicon Valley for a couple years. And right before we moved to Silicon Valley, I think this was in 2014, we pitched ourselves to make a virtual reality commercial for Nokia. Nokia had this open pitch they had their new camera coming out, their VR 360 in the round camera. And we actually applied to make them a commercial to promote their camera. And we pitched to them like what it would be like to face a real bear. Because there's a bear here in Utah that's trained and had been in more movies than I have.
Yeah.
And is much more expensive than I am.
Yeah.
No, than any of us. But and that was kind of the beginning. I don't want to say that we weren't applying new tech to our careers at that time necessarily. Before that, there were a couple of color run videos where you did some really cool rigs with GoPros and made some stop, like, what are those called? A
bullet time.
Bullet time. I was going to call it stop motion. And I was like, that's not it. I know that's not it. But that kind of like jump started we made this commercial in Utah. And then we moved to Silicon Valley, like right after that, just by coincidence.
Days after.
And we started to go to all these meetups for tech conferences and films and filmmaking, because we really wanted to network in Silicon Valley, which is like the best place to network ever. And we got known as the Bear People. Like, so many people had seen our commercial, or a little spot that we made at these conferences or these meetups that was being promoted to create VR content or technology and basically to showcase their camera, right? And this was sort of like the beginning of our foray and to like really stay up on technology. And I want to like pick your brain, Boston, on like your philosophy behind embracing new technology, because I'm going to confess and admit that I am like, whenever I see a new platform, I'm just like, I like dip my toe in and I kind of like watch it. And I'm that way I was that way with skinny jeans too. Like, I didn't wear skinny jeans for like years because I was like, those are not going to be in. And anyway, so I just like feel like you embrace things really quickly. And I want you to talk about like maybe some of your favorite technology to come out that we use regularly.
Yeah, I think the key here for indie filmmakers, if you're an aspiring indie filmmaker, if you're looking to make your own movies, if you're looking to even make your own home videos, let alone have a career as a filmmaker, you have to learn about how to use the tools you have. All right, period. Like, that's how you start any career. That's how you start making good art, making good content, is understanding the tools. Because you can buy the fanciest, most expensive camera and make content that doesn't look good if you don't know how to use it. Right? You really have to understand it. But at the same time, you don't need that fancy camera. You don't need to own that and have that in your house and use that on your movies. in order to achieve looks that still look incredibly expensive or look like Hollywood. And so I entered the workforce as a filmmaker at a really interesting time. There was sort of a recession happening, right? And YouTube was a great space to take off. And there's kind of what's referred to as the DSLR revolution. Now, on our last live stream last week, one of our people asked us, "Oh, your live streams look good. What camera do you use?" And that's a common question. Constantly, people are asking, "What equipment do you use?" And I refer to, you only ever need 3 cameras. All right. There's the camera you carry with you at all times, which is generally your cell phone. And frankly, cell phones now are just killing it in terms of having really high quality photos and video. Like, there is no film camera that I grew up with that can even compete to some of the abilities of cameras. We'll get into that later, but there's there's the camera you carry with you. And then there's a camera that you can use professionally, but is a learning tool. I like to think of like these DSLRs. The camera we're using right now is a Blackmagic Pocket 6K is what they're called, right? Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K, right? Great long form. There's millions of these cameras, or not millions, but at least hundreds of different models you can choose from. But they kind of allow you to do things that your cell phone wouldn't. You can dial in some certain settings and things like that. And then lastly, there's the cameras when you have a high-paying gig that you will rent or borrow. And the secret, and the reason I tell this whole story in these 3 cameras that you'll only ever know, the only cameras you'll ever need, the camera you carry with you, the camera you learn on, and the camera you rent or borrow, is ultimately when we started our YouTube channel, and this is kind of crazy, you probably wouldn't guess this, the most viral videos we made, we did not own the equipment, we made them with. Meaning, I borrowed my roommate's DSLR and made Halo versus Predator. All right. I borrowed my friend's Red camera and made Halo versus Destiny. Right. We borrowed the cameras for our shoot. We didn't even pay for them because they were our friends and they were like, let's make movies together. And so they came on, they either, operated the camera or whatever. And ultimately, that's the secret we're getting to with technology, right? So many of what's available to us now is light years ahead of what people had 5, 10, 20 years ago. And so my philosophy to answer this question in a 10-minute rant is basically, you need to look at what's available to you now for dirt cheap, for free, right? Do you have a cell phone that can do 4K video? Think about that. When I was in film school, there was no option for 4K video. None, unless you had a high-end Red camera. And then it was the first generation Red camera. And like, that was so expensive. So it was like, we were still considering shooting on film, or we were shooting in HD was a big deal. But again, all those cameras were different. And so you just need to look at what's really available to you. And then once you understand that camera, look at the limitations of it and what type of unique story can you tell? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, you're not going to have a giant 60-foot crane and a full, cinema IMAX quality or large format camera that they shoot the latest Avengers film on or whatever it is, right? You're not making Marvel movies, and so you don't have that scope. You're not going to have all those bells and whistles. So don't try to tell that story. Try to tell a story that fits the technology you have, something that's smaller in scale, something that's more intimate, and lean into that technology. One last piece that I really saw, I remember now, I talked about this DSLR revolution. The first camera I ever purchased, I think I ended up spending $2,000 on the camera and a lens. And it was a Canon 7D, right? Now, what was interesting about that camera is the way that it shot had this really unique thing and cameras still do this. It had what's called a rolling shutter, meaning it would shoot the information every frame would basically, like a scanner, kind of shoot a fraction of a second, but it would basically shoot it like it was printing the image instead of a progressive sensor, which shoots it every pixel at once, right? So basically it would scan the image. What that meant is when you kind of pan side to side, the image would sort of warp a little bit. And I would always get annoyed at that until I saw a short film where someone used that exact handheld camera moment when their character got hit over the head, and then they did a POV shot and used the rolling shutter, and all of a sudden, what was once a limitation technologically became a storytelling tool that they employed to tell their story. So they embraced the limitations of the technology. Now that comes to this full circle when Renny's talking about the bear short, which you can actually watch on our YouTube channel. If you haven't seen it, you can watch it in 3D in 3D 360, but you can watch it on your
You
phone.
can watch it on your phone.
Yeah.
And go like this.
If you have a VR headset, you can watch it in the YouTube app in 3D. It was early days of 3D 360 video, but it was really, really fun. And we had to figure out the limitations. Like, we couldn't record sound organically in the camera. There were a lot of things that we decided,
because the camera literally was filming 360. We had to figure out where to hide the entire system outdoors that supported the camera. So we like had it, I kid you not, we had a van and like the table that was housing the computer and all the gear to support, you know, the camera that's plugged in behind this van, so that like people don't know that, like, it's just funny because 20 feet away from this camera was like the guys from Nokia supporting.
Yeah, a full, like, we had our full little like video village, and it was all hidden and obscured by this van, and we used that, and the van was part of the story. And then we put like a fake fire below the camera, and like a fireplace. And the idea was to basically, you couldn't see when you look down in 360, you couldn't see the base of the tripod. So we had to paint it out and cover it up. And so we figured that, oh yeah, we're gonna have our actors pretending like they're surrounding a fire. And so all of those things were things that we looked at the limitation of our technology and then told a story based on it. Hey Jay, how's it going? Hey Horace, good to see you. Yeah, shout out. We'd love to say hi to everybody. And on Instagram, we'll try to say hi too. We've got lots of people. Mike, the husband, and Steve. Awesome. Good to see you guys. So yeah, but basically this is something that as an indie filmmaker, you must learn to do, is learn to find what technology is available to you. All right. That competes visually, maybe not completely, but can look similar to what traditional Hollywood might look like, if that's what's important to you, right? If you're making videos for a certain format, whether you're like, let's say you're working on a TikTok channel, your own TikTok videos, embrace what's important about that format. Don't worry about making it look cinematic. Worry about making it look authentic and unique and you, and use your phone or use whatever is cool for you. But bottom line is, learning to use what you have in terms of technology will save you incredible amounts of money. So designing stories for the limits is something that we've embraced, and it comes full circle. Yeah. Oh yeah. And Jay, so Renny and I are filmmakers. Just to give you a rundown, he said, sorry, my friend sent me a link to this. What's going on?
For those of you who don't know, I'm Renny. This is Boston.
I'm Boston. And we run Indie Film School. So we have a YouTube channel that we built with lots of comedy sketches that we're adding to. And we're actually announcing that we're posting some more content there in the next week. We're kicking back up. But we're filmmakers and we teach filmmaking. We just finished our feature film, Alien Country. And Alien Country is a sci-fi action comedy that's very much in line with the content that we put on YouTube. But it's kind of leveled up. And so we're talking about the process of making that and how you can learn to do this as a creative as well. Learn to make your own creative, original film content. So Alien Country itself, we had a limited budget. We had hundreds of thousands of dollars actually to make the movie. And it was a feature film. So it was 90 minutes. So it was a big, ambitious project. But even with that amount of money, we weren't buying and renting tons of lighting equipment. We were shooting stuff at night. And so we had to come up with an artistic aesthetic for the movie that would still work with our limited budget. Now, when you think, oh, you had hundreds of thousands of dollars, well, over time, over an 18-day shoot like that, you really have to be careful with how you're spending money because these lights are expensive to rent. So we embraced new kinds of lighting. There's LED lights that are just absolutely stunning and changing the world. Like we use these Titan tubes, which are expensive, but they save you so much time. And ultimately they're LEDs, and we used all kinds of newer lighting solutions to basically light our movie. I was actually amazed at how little lighting we had on set and how dynamic our lighting was. Mm-hmm. I've been on a lot of sets over the years, and usually lighting is what takes the most time to set up when you're on a film set, and it can just make or break your schedule if you are. And I mean, to a great purpose. Like we want things to be well lit. We want our movie sets. We have a big, huge light right now in front of us so that we look good. Like we want to look good on our films, right? And that's the whole thing that drives the artistic sensibility of an entire film. But I was just shocked and amazed at how dynamic our lighting was achieved.
with such little actual like equipment.
Yeah.
You know?
And part of that too meant that like we weren't doing a lot of soft lighting. Basically, people get in large panes of diffusion. They'll use lots of book lighting. They'll basically shoot through diffusion, bounce it off of another pane of, as a bounce, and do these additional tips and, things you can do with lighting essentially to make things look more glamorous or gorgeous. And a lot of times we just shot with hard lighting. Now, these were choices that our cinematographer, Wes Johnson,
thank you so
basically
much, Wes.
made the film look.
And Skylar, our gaffer.
But he embraced this gritty look, which really, the story lent itself to it. Now, we could have shot it if we had more money, more time, we could have shot it in a more glamorous Hollywood style where things were more dialed in, more smooth, looked a little bit more composed. Or we lean into that grittiness, lean into the fact that it's like, no, we're going to light this like this is a street light. Street lights aren't soft. They are hard, and you get shadows and raccoon shadows under your eyes, as they call them. But if you embrace that limitation and say, this is how we're telling a story, then you can actually allow for some magic to happen. And if you try, the one thing we felt on our YouTube channel, hey, how's it going, Edgar? The one thing we found on our YouTube channel is the closer we got to Hollywood, the more people would start to try to pick things apart a little bit. Yeah,
that is so interesting. Like the more time and effort we put into our YouTube channel production value-wise, people would start to rip apart the production more. And that's ultimately like why we kind of backed off a little bit, because the stuff and started to move into longer form narrative content is because we want to make high-end, really cool content. But that's not what was thriving on YouTube for us. That's not what we were finding and we couldn't keep up with the pace of the YouTube sensibility, which is like post every day, at least once a week, when you want to make these high concept films, right? Jay, thank you so much for saying that. We do think Alien Country is an epic concept, and we would love for you to check it out. Go to aliencountrymovie.com or at Alien Country. Yep. But I want to transition a little bit to like how we applied some of these technologies to not just the lighting of Alien Country, but a little bit in the previs of Alien Country. And then I want to talk about like the really cool FPV stuff that we embraced that might not be as new as it was when we first embraced it, but maybe talk about the previs stuff first.
Yeah. So as a director, question for the audience: what is a director's job on set? Yes, Renny, would you like to?
Wait, I know the answer. That's not fair. To communicate clearly the artistic needs of the scene. Yeah.
So I like to say that a director can be a jack of all trades, but has to be a master of one. And that's the ability to communicate, what Renny's saying. Really, a director needs to be able to say, okay, here's what's on the page, but here's how we're going to do it. All right, here's what it's going to look like. And they communicate what their idea is to all the departments, so the departments can then do their job of basically bringing that to life, whether it means, oh, we're going to put lights over here, or whether it means be like, okay, well, we're going to use this makeup over here, or this cue for, a prop to come out, or whatever it needs to be, right? So they all have to coordinate. So the director needs to communicate that job. And the way you do that is you write out a shot list. Okay, you literally write, okay, we're going to do a close-up shot for this moment in the script. Then we're going to do a wide shot. We're going to use the tracking shot where we're actually going to shoot out the window of a car. So they do that. But then on top of that, you can storyboard, right? Actually draw out and say, hey, this is the frame I want to use. And then on top of that, Hollywood does this thing called Previz, all right, which up until recently was pretty expensive. They would literally go into 3D programs and do rough animations of how scenes would actually be put together. Well, with Alien Country, I did Previz, and we're actually going to publish a video about this on our YouTube channel and on Facebook. And basically, what we were able to do was, using a DSLR, using a camera, I walked into our bar location, which Jace was here earlier. He's probably cruised by now, but I walked into our bar location and using my camera, took a whole bunch of photos, all right, and basically created a 3D version of the bar location, brought that into a computer, and then walked a digital camera around and took photos, and basically like blocked out where the action was going to be. And I communicated with my cinematographer and my assistant director to be able to say, all right, if the characters enter this door, we can move the camera here. And we blocked out the entire scene using this pre-visualization technique on a computer. That's something that you can do at home today. It doesn't cost you any money, all right? If you have a cell phone, you can literally go, and actually this is something we're going to talk about as well with this Previz video is we just got sponsored by Polycam to do a video using their app. Now, the app works on an iPhone 12, any iPhone or phone with a LiDAR scanner in it. LiDAR is a light radar, basically. But it allows you to use that scanner and to quickly scan any space. So if you were going into the bar or whatever your film location would be, is you can literally take your phone, basically film the entire room. It creates a 3D model. You throw that on the computer and you can actually block out as though you were in that space. You can block out your actors, your camera movement, and the limit, like it saves you like hours and hours of time to be able to actually walk in and do this from the comfort of your own home, sitting at your desk. You can literally be in the space with a dozen people. So yeah,
it was really cool to see and let's be honest, it was a little bit rudimentary because we were kind of rushed, but like the bar location in 3D in the program and having like these stick figures basically outlining where exactly, you know, before we're there, and remember, like we're doing a lot of this Previz like remotely, A, because of COVID, and B, because we were just like prepping beforehand and we didn't have the money to like bring people together and be in like official pre-production so early. But basically like to see on the computer, okay, this is where I want our main character to stand, and this is where we're going to have like the fight happen, and this is where Everly, my character, is going to stand on the stage and play the guitar during this bar fight. We were able to like map that out and with arrows, like show the movement, and, you know, and it's just incredible because there are literally shots in the movie and these still frames that look exactly like the Previz that we created. And it just saves so much time and effort. So
yeah, and there's a comment here from Jay where he was like, well, I don't have an iPhone 12. That's okay, actually. And like I said, the bar that we filmed in, I didn't use my actual, the lights just turned on. Sunset.
I'll get it.
No, it's fine. You leave them on. That's fine.
You sure?
Yeah, it's fine. I think it actually looks pretty good. Just a little more ambience. So I didn't have my iPhone 12 when we shot Alien Country. In fact, it wasn't out yet, I don't think. And I didn't have a LiDAR sensor. I used just a standard DSLR to take photos, and then I used a computer program to basically stitch those photos into a 3D model. And you can get free trials to those programs, or if you want to buy them, some of them, like the one I used, I think is like $100 or something like that. Again, you know, tools, programs, things, they can cost money. An iPhone 12 isn't a cheap phone. But like the idea here is whatever you do have access to, you can use those tools. And literally $100 for a program versus the hundreds of thousands of dollars this would cost 10 to 20 years ago.
Yeah.
That's what's crazy about technology in our industry, or in all industries, is that really the access is becoming so incredibly affordable. Unreal Engine is free to use, right? And it's an incredible pre-visualization tool. And I can't speak highly of it enough, because ultimately, like, we used it for our movie and it saved us tens of thousands of dollars to be able to block out our scenes. So those tools will be there. Also, we have a link to Displayland, was an app that we used that worked on all phones. It's only a matter of time. They actually had to sunset their app because of COVID. Their company shut down. But Displayland, like, that technology happened. It's there. It's only a matter of time before Polycam or another company comes out and says, look, we made an app for the LiDAR sensor, but we can really do this. We can unlock this and make this free and readily available for all filmmakers to use.
Yeah, we actually did a location scout with that app as well. Again, it's not available at the moment because of COVID, but we went down to Goblin Valley, which was the location we used for Alien Country, and we used the app to capture some of the goblins in Goblin Valley.
ZZYZZ1, hello. How's it going? You're in Florida. We were in Florida like days ago.
Like 48 hours
yeah,
ago.
So good to see you.
And it was cold. What's up with that?
Also, on our flight back, Carrot Top was on our plane.
Totally. Carrot Top.
Scott Thompson, the comedian who is known as Carrot Top. We didn't want to interrupt him. It was COVID. It was whatever. We're all trying to stay socially distant. But that was fun. But we flew with him from Florida to Utah. So maybe he's still in Utah. But yeah, quick question. How would you use these tools creating YouTube videos? Awesome question. Yeah, so ultimately, like we said, like the Previz piece, if you're creating a sketch or a story, right, those are like really, really fast ways to communicate your idea. And actually, this app that we used recently, what was really cool about it is how fast you could create a 3D model. And so basically, my gut is it's all about saving time. If you have a lot of time before you go and make your YouTube video, and let's say you're making a video like the ones we would make, right? Like we made a bunch of short type films for our YouTube channel. All right. So this app would save us time on the days of production because we basically have gone out and we planned our shoot. We planned exactly how we're going to, like, what camera, what camera angles are we going to shoot from? What order are we going to do them in? How's the blocking going to work? All of those questions that you need to figure out on set, we've already spent time beforehand, so we don't have to take that time on set. So, hey, Confusion Master, good to see you. So yeah, that's basically a great way to do it. But one thing that we would absolutely and have used on our YouTube channel would be FPV drones.
Yeah, so I want to explain, FPV drones are a lot more common now than they were about a year and a half ago, even 2 years ago when we were first exploring them. And I just want to like paint a picture of what our first experience was with FPV drones. So basically FPV drones are these tiny little drones that, what are they called? Front player view?
First person.
First person view.
Yeah.
I feel so silly right
Front
now.
player.
Front player, first person view. Mm-hmm. Shows how much of a gamer I am. But my first experience was like we went to a park to meet, I'm totally blanking on our boy's name, Bryce, to meet Bryce. And
Bryce Presswich.
Shout out to Bryce Presswich.
Follow him at Skyberries FPV on Instagram.
He does such amazing work. But we were going to our first demolition derby, which was in 2019, to get some sizzle reel footage for our movie, right? Because we wanted to pitch our movie for funding. And we really wanted to get dynamic footage of the demolition derby. And we thought the best way to do that was with a couple of drones, one being this FPV drone, right? So we went to a park, and this Bryce is flying this drone as if he's in a video game, right? He's got a VR goggle set on and a headset on, and he's like whipping around between trees and like through a jungle gym. And I'm sitting at a picnic bench, with a table in front of me, and he flies the drone underneath the table, underneath my chair, like through my legs and out the other side. And I could see what he was, I had the goggles on, so I could see first person view how this was working. And I just like took it off and was like, oh my gosh, we have to use this footage. We have to use this in our movie. Yeah. And we're doing it. And I noticed Peter saying like that he saw some of our rehearsal footage. I don't even know that that's going to make the movie. But like, we believe that this footage is so dynamic and so different and hasn't really been like seen before that it's going to really add up some production value to our film itself. Yeah. So like, again, we're talking about FPV drones. What are those right now? And it literally means these micro drones with, they have a high or a low latency feed where the person's wearing goggles and it feels like they're flying in a video game. And that's something that's been pretty cool, pretty new. And these are durable, lightweight, and they have a GoPro mounted on top of them. Now, GoPros have even gotten just so much better. The first, second, third generation GoPros, good footage, but it was like a lot of distortion, a lot of problems, a lot of like, in low light, they just got really grainy. But GoPro footage now, it really is starting to look just polished and pretty and beautiful. And you can project it in on a larger screen, and it still can hold up if it's color corrected and shot well. But anyway, the basic idea is like these GoPros, what are we on, 8 or 9 now? That footage can look just absolutely stunning, mixed with the incredible fast movement of these drones. And all of a sudden, you have something that Hollywood has never seen before. All right. Yeah, they've done helicopter stuff or they've done crane stuff, and you can do all this, but the maneuverability of these drones just literally creates it creates shots that you could only get if you completely CG'd the environment and and all the actors and move the camera that quickly. And so anyway, that's basically when I saw that first little demo that Bryce had shown us,
it was like, well, we have to use them. So we brought them to a demolition derby and we captured some incredible footage that's going to go into the final film, Alien Country. And we did the same thing. We have a motorcycle chase in the film. There's a story element where this UFO basically flies into our film, and we use the UFO POV as the drone.
Like my favorite shot. Oh my gosh, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's like, and it's spectacular. These drones really can just absolutely get footage. Now, again, those drones, they're like a couple $1,000 now. To a person who doesn't own one or like doesn't have one, it's like, wow, thousands of dollars. That's insane. But what you're achieving is achieving looks that look like hundreds or millions of dollars, right? Creating a motorcycle chase with literally just a motorcycle, a cop car, and a GoPro that looks like
diving down a cliff. And
and just watch the rehearsal footage that we have. It's on our Instagram channel and our Facebook, a couple posts back, and it basically, that's something you could use on your YouTube channel. That kind of answers Panda Dev's question. But it will absolutely set you apart and it will captivate your viewer. The opening shot of our film, spoiler alert, it's going to be a shot like that. It's going to be a shot where we just hook the viewer in right there from the get-go with YouTube sensibilities. It's like, welcome to our movie, and you're in an action sequence. And so that's the idea that we have. That's the ideas that we have of like, how can you really take new technology and throw it into your film? Yeah.
Another spoiler is like, we have this shot that's absolutely gorgeous with one of these drones that's chasing my character plus our Jimmy and our Ben, the alien character, through a canyon. And just the footage that this drone was able to catch in between the walls of a slot canyon, it just is like mind blowing. And it's supposed to be like the POV of an alien chasing us. So this is not technology that's like out of really anybody's reach. If we can embrace it, like, and on our little production level, which is really like very low, not the production level.
Well, let's
production budget, I need to say.
Okay, but even then,
anybody can.
No budget is the lowest budget, and we at least had money. But I understand what you're saying. Like, no, I'm not trying to negate it. But like, on a lower budget, like the modest budgets that we do have, and I guess what I was trying to say is I don't want to discourage anyone. If you're out there and you really don't have any money, you have like a couple $100, like, we obviously made our movie for a lot more than that. But that doesn't mean that this is out of your reach. And again, find a friend who's really into this type of
trade work with somebody, like volunteer to help them out so that you can, borrow their camera or have them, borrow some time or give you some time to help you with your YouTube videos, whatever it takes. But I think part of this discussion that I wanted to talk about is like embracing the new technology and finding a way to access it, and that's something that we've really tried to do throughout our careers. And we talked about VR. We talked like, you guys, we have a digital double of my head and my body sitting on this computer that totally freaks me out because Boston is obsessed with like capturing things in photogrammetry and like, assembling it in as a 3D model. And it's like, we actually applied for a grant so that we could use the same technology that the Mandalorian is using in Alien Country. Now, if we get that grant, then we're going to use that technology. If we don't get that grant, then we're going to use normal technology with a green screen, for Alien Country for some of our pickup shots. But like, I think the message that I'm trying to convey is that by trying to embrace these things, we're trying to open up the possibilities. And when people hear that, like when companies hear that pitch or when we apply for grants or whatever, they see that we're forward thinking and they want to help us embrace that.
Yeah, I think that's your weapon as an independent filmmaker. If you want to go out there and have success, my biggest advice to you is look for those things that will help you compete. Stay abreast of new technology, but ultimately at the same time, don't go chasing technology for technology's sake. Look at what you have access to. Again, that's what we kind of said at the beginning is, what do you really have access to? The cameras that that we used for our most viral videos, we borrowed. We didn't even pay for them. They were our friends' cameras. We knew how to use them and we knew how to shoot for the limitations even of those cameras. And so that's something to think about, is really what type of story can you tell with what you have access to? Think about it in those terms. Again, Alien Country, the best story is, how we had limiting lighting resources and we leaned into these, and most important than not even just the kind of lights we had, but the time we had to set up those lights was also extremely limited. And so our brilliant team of our gaffer, our cinematographer, and our key and grip department, just basically 2 other people, they literally embraced the fact that they didn't have a lot of time, and they let the aesthetic reflect this gritty, but ultimately beautiful aesthetic. And we just let hard light splash across people's faces instead of like trying to dial it into a more beautiful romantic comedy Hollywood look. So that was just something fun that we were able to storytelling layer that we were able to add and consider as we're approaching our movie. So yeah, I think that's my big takeaway. Should we open for questions?
Yeah, if people have questions, I saw this comment here as people can like see me lean forward because the writing is so small. TW444 is saying, practice with the drone by making a paper airplane and try to follow its path. Work in progress.
Oh.
That is super cool, and the POV of like behind the plane would be super fun to watch. I just have to say.
Yeah.
Peter says, I was totally going to bring up the behind the scenes of The Mandalorian. The stuff they are doing blew me away. It made me think if I could come up with something like that on a smaller level. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You totally should, and let us know what you do come up with, because we'd love to hear it.
What's crazy too is they even employed old time filmmaking techniques. Part of it was just for fun to experiment, but they didn't do everything CG. Now CG is becoming, Blender is free, and it's like professional 3D modeling software. You can get it right now. You can go leave this and download it, and like there's tutorials where you can learn to use Blender for free. But literally you could model something better than or just as good as like an ILM style model just in Blender in a free program, and create the Mandalorian ship and then render that out in in Blender or another 3D rendering program. But basically the idea there is a lot of these things are available, but they also took models of that ship and they shot it on like an actual either blue or black screen, added stars into it, and they did a number of techniques that ultimately, you could do with a toy. There's Star Wars toys out there. You could make that type of a film, and it would hold up. And people's sensibilities, like you like as long as they're captivated by your story, they will look at those, with kind eyes. And of course, again, like I wouldn't recommend trying to compete with The Mandalorian in scope without the budget of The Mandalorian. So think of a story that might be more intimate. Think of a story that might be simpler. You could still have some beautiful vistas and beautiful shots, but like the episode where they crash land on the ice planet, spoiler. But like, it's sliding across this ice and there's like, and it's breaking through like that. Those were expensive. And the monsters that show up in that episode, yeah, very expensive things to figure out. You need teams and that sort of thing. But maybe you could come up with a simple idea of like, well, you could land on an ice planet, you get one establishing shot and you're close in, you see one monster. Think about the old days of how compelling was the Wampa scene in Empire Strikes Back, and how intimate was that? It was just Luke and then some puppets that that didn't work half the time, but they like shot them in a way that was very compelling to make a cool story. All right, do we have any questions come in? Looks like we're pretty good actually. Not a ton of questions right now, but we want to let you know about what's coming up. So we have saying
Man, we still want to make Man Down. Let's talk about it.
Look, that's my advice to any indie filmmaker, but like, look, we can do it. We can make whatever. Just we come up with the scope, we budget it out, we figure it out, we raise that money, we make it happen.
Stroop Job's our buddy, and he's got a great script called Man Down. We need to revisit it because it'd be really fun to make it.
Yep. But yeah, so what we have coming up, we are really pushing out a lot of new content about our film and also about filmmaking. So we're basically taking you behind the scenes as we have gone through production, pre-production, production, and now we're in post-production on Alien Country, the feature film. And we want to show you some of those techniques. So if you're subscribed to us on YouTube, you can also follow updates on Instagram and Facebook. And if you're subscribed to us on Instagram and Facebook and you haven't subbed to our YouTube channel, we'll be posting a lot of content there. But we want to make this interactive, and we want to answer what questions you would have as aspiring filmmakers.
Yeah, I was just going to say that YouTube, you can find us with either Indie Film School or Storylands. And almost all of the other platforms are Alien Country Movie or Indie Film School. So, or you can follow us on our personal, and we cross post all the time. So I feel like we're...
Okay, so yeah, from one Dalton Baker. Dalton was in our movie.
Yo, what up, Dalton?
So yeah, but he said, for an independent film, you made it look and feel like a full-on Hollywood production. You both are definitely professionals in the field, and I can't wait to see the final product. Oh, I thought there was gonna be a question. Well, thank you. No, that's awesome. Yeah, I think there is really no difference, and this is a cool thing that I like to say. Sometimes you'll get people who have this idea of what a film set needs to be or needs to look like, and they'll use this term, which I think is funny. They'll be like, well, on a real film set or on a real movie when you're doing a film. And I don't like that at all, because ultimately, like YouTube, the internet has leveled the playing field. Every set you're on is a real set. It depends on your attitude. Like, and what Dalton's saying here is like, yeah, I mean, it was a Hollywood, you know, we ran our movie like a Hollywood production. We wanted it to look like a Hollywood production. And even if we didn't have Hollywood dollars, multi-millions of dollars, right? We still took what money we had and we treated it with the integrity. And you can do the exact same thing no matter what level you're at, whether you're just making YouTube videos and, you know, in the backyard with your friends for no money, or whether you're making multi-million-dollar, you know, commercials for clients. Ultimately, it's what you bring to the table that makes it a real movie.
Yeah, I don't know if people know this, but the first time we had this movie broken down budget-wise, people said that we should make this movie for $5 million. And then people said we should make this movie for $1.8 million. Then it was $1.2 million. And then we brought it down to much lower than that. So what we're trying to say here is like what we've done with our skill set is we've learned. And this might come from like working with clients where they say, we have this much money, what can you do for us? And we put our brains to work and we say, we can do this. We try to make the most of every single dollar. And I feel like that's what we did on a much larger scale with Alien Country. Mm-hmm. And of course we couldn't have done that without our amazing cast and crew, just like joining our project because they love the project and having passion for making something super cool. So let's see, do we have another? No.
Yeah,
okay.
I think, hey guys, thank you much. We're doing these live streams every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. If there's a schedule change, if we're shooting or there's something happening, we'll let you know in advance. But if you enjoyed tonight, give us a like, give us a thumbs up, you know, share this, whether it's Facebook, wherever you want. But we'd love to know what questions you have that we could address in future episodes. Again, right now we're kind of doing a series on how you can save money as a filmmaker and still make high quality projects. And so this was kind of more of we talked about people, places, and things. And this was more of a things episode. So the things you can save money on, number one being new technology that's coming up there. So yeah, let us know what questions you have, and we will see you, of course, in upcoming videos. Did we mention all the things we were coming out with, or did we kind of get sidetracked? Well, we got tutorials coming at you.
We've got some tutorials coming out for you. We'll be publishing the Polycam tutorial here soon, which will showcase our Disney World trip as well as our St. Augustine pirate trip. And this is the same basic technology. We didn't use this exact technology to Previz Alien Country, but it's the same basic concept that we did. So it's just kind of like a cool window into how our brains work. Yep. So stay tuned, guys. Thanks for listening to us ramble, and happy Tuesday night.
Have a good Tuesday.
And we're going to figure